Okay, Jason Mumo, Jam on the Fly. And today we're going to do my little popper, surface popper, kind of a pencil popper type of idea. And use these little double barrel popper heads, and a little bit of craft fur, a little bit of SF fiber in the tail for flash, a little deer hair collar, and a little bit of deer hair for right behind the back of it. Tie it on a stainless steel SS15 hook. I tie it that way for surface poppers, and I also tie it the opposite way. I tie it that way for basically a diving surface lure. So what I do is I'll put a piece of split shot out maybe 3 foot, let that line sink, and then just draw this baby right down into the water, stop it, and then this thing will come right back up the top and fish it that way. So it's kind of a diver. So I put that head on both ways depending on what I want. Let me zoom in on this so you can see what they look like before we start. And there we go. And you can see there's a little bit of pink in my white because this red dye just happened to bleed into some of my white. So the whatever deer hair I got, the dye wasn't completely out of it. So that's why they have a little pink look to them. But you can see them flies there. That's pretty much the pattern that we're doing. And this is the, I'll call it a little pencil popper, or basically acts like a pencil popper. So we call it the JM surface popper, I guess is what we'll call it. Okay, there we go, JM surface popper. Let's see how we tie this. We're going to use an SS15 hook, and we're going to put one of the small double barrel heads on it, and basically just work that on the shank of the hook. Just put it through the hook and right up through, and just you have to push them through. It takes a little bit of time to do it. I won't necessarily show you that. I'm sure you can get a popper on, but the key is, if you look, we want that thing dead straight. So do what you could to get that thing as straight as possible. I'm going to use some of my monocord, and I got to tie a little bit in here, and I'm going to make a little bit of a head right behind the eye and whip finish at, and that's just so that my glue has something to adhere to. Okay, so you just put a nice little thread base down on the shank of the hook, and I'm going to get that light on there a little bit better. And now we're going to come in and we're going to hit this with a little bit of super glue gel. Get that in the back part of the shank there, the whole way around, the back part of the shank. Not up front, it'll push front. So what I like to do is just kind of roll this baby up as I slowly push it up. Just kind of roll it in place. And it should relax right into a spot like that. So you could see, I'm going to center this up just a little bit more. Okay, there you go. So you can see it just centered up, just so we have the eye sticking out. And you could see the eye of the hook very nicely there. And we're going to come back to the back right behind it, and we're going to start with a little bit of thread. Again, a monocord is what I'm using for a tying thread. We're going to take a 3/16 bead, and I'm going to put that on the hook here. I'm going to put that on big side first. The beads are counter drilled. There's a big side, so the big side is facing the popper. Okay, and I'm just going to wrap a little bit of a monocord base, slide that up to where that's pretty much towards the end. And we're going to take that bead and we're going to tie that in right at the bend. You can see that. Okay, so we're just doing thread wraps here right on the back side. We're going to come over, back over, back over, just a couple different wraps so we kind of lock that in, and we're just simply locking that bead in place. That bead can't move anywhere now. Just like that. That's going to help splay out our material. Put that bead on. We're going to get some SF fiber. This is white, and I only want the littlest piece. See, there's hardly anything here. This I use for a little bit of rigidity to hold out the craft fur, and if you'll see what I mean. So I'm going to take this piece, I'm going to fold it in half, just the way it comes off the scan or off the rack. So there we go. We got a piece folded in half. Now we're going to take that and we're going to tie that in about the middle, and I'm going to tie that up towards the head, fold it back over itself, and start wrapping back. But when I do, I'm going to splay this out over top of the bead so it's kind of all around. And you can take your, nice thing with a rotary vise is we could see that we're the whole way around because we can roll our vise around. And we're just going to wrap that back like that. And you can see that's splayed out over that ball very nicely the whole way around, minus the bottom maybe. I usually set my spring as a gauge for my length. So that will be my length out to the spring. So I cut my flash just a hair short of that. And we come in with craft fur. So I'm going to come in with white craft fur. And we're going to do this in the old Hedon style, which is the old killer, red and white, just like you see in the other two. And I don't know, it's just an old classic. I kind of like it, so we're going to stick with that old Hedon style. Again, pulling out the short clumps of hair, we're going to set that to the side. We could do a free craft or a fly out of that. That's stuff that you would normally throw away, but we can make a fly out of it. We'll make a brush out of that and turn that into a free craft fur fly. I always cut the bottoms and lengthen that so that I have a length at the tips. And you see what's nice about this craft fur. It's very thick here. Till I get to the end, I'm down to like nothing. So it has an automatic taper built in. This is going to go back to almost a spring, just covering all that. I'm just going to lay it right on top. I'm going to put 2 loose wraps, and then I'm going to spread that all around the hook. Okay? And with the vise, you could see that you're spread the whole way around. We'll wrap up towards the foam, and then we'll slowly wrap back. Okay, so we look around and everything looks pretty much covered, just like that. And that's your tail. That gives you that little bit of bulk in the back for your tail. Now we're just going to come in and we're just going to lift and snip. It's nice with a rotary vise. Lift and snip. And we're just going to work our way around, cutting off all the excess craft fur from behind the head, just like that. Okay, a couple extra miscellaneous pieces just hanging here. Next step, going to keep this towards the back, the thread, and we're going to go with, got a little bit of this deer hair, got some white in it. I'm going to use the white part. You can use the bleached white, it doesn't really matter. It's going to take a little snip of that. We're looking for these ends. Okay, we're looking for these ends. We're going to create a little collar behind this. So again, we tease out all the small fibers, just like you do with any hair, craft fur, whatever you have. We're going to tease out them small fibers. Going to kind of keep them tips kind of so they're aligned. I'm going to set this right on top, and I'm going to come over top of it with 2 wraps. And I'm just going to look at that. That looks about right. That's about the collar that we want. So I am going to tie that in, working my way front. Okay, while holding the collar, I'm going to come in and I'm going to snip off all the excess butts. Okay, just come in, just take a nice snip off of all the butts of the deer hair. Again, we just simply want the collar. I really don't want anything underneath. So that looks about as clean as it gets. See how we have a nice collar now? Okay. And we're going to come in and make a nice wrap right there. Okay, so now we got a nice wrap right there. We're ready to put our red collar on. And we could clean up a little bit of stuff. So you see our tail and our collar, everything's looking beautiful. Beautiful looking little fly. Now we're going to take our red. And this red, the dye's not quite right. That's why everything was turning pink on my other one. This one's going to turn pink too because it's the same stuff. Must be a bad dye job that they did on this particular deer hair. But here's the trick. I'm going to take this guy like this. Okay, and I am going to comb out all the small fibers. And if you could see, I'll hold it the other way so you could see this. And I'm going to just hold it this way. You can see that includes all the tips. Okay, I like to keep them long. It just seems to be easier trimming when this whole thing is long. So I'm going to lay that right on top, and I'm going to put 2 loose wraps on. Just let your bobbin hang and play with this so that it wraps the entire shank of the hook. And you can spin this, and you could look, and you could add, and you could subtract, and you could do whatever you want. But get that pretty much even the whole way around there. And then we're just going to twist, and we're going to follow that. And we're going to use our fingers, and we're just going to come right up through to the front, right behind the popper head. Remember, the longer this is, the hair, the easier it is to pull all this back. Okay? Now that collar is all in there. Pull out a couple of the loose fibers, and you could just kind of go through there and kind of comb that out and make that look like something, and make sure that you have fibers everywhere. If you don't, you could just kind of wiggle that around and get them everywhere. Again, work your way to the front, right behind right behind the foam popper head. Put a whip finish on right behind the foam popper head. Okay, there's one. Tighten that. Let's go with another one for safekeeping. And just draw that tight. And we got a really nice finish on that. Now, got to clean some things up. I'm going to reach into the bottom of my hook and I'm going to lift up. Just like that. Then I'm going to come straight in and I'm going to try and snip all them fibers out. Just like that. Okay, so you can see the red right in there. I'm going to come in this way and we'll take a snip out there. Basically cleaning the eye of the hook out. Keeping our craft fur in place. Not interfering with that at all. Now we could come in, now we have an angle on the back where we could get underneath the red and we could snip that as we come front. So I'm basically picking out the red fibers from the back and working my way up, and if you get a white one in there or something, don't worry about it. And I'm coming and I'm basically trimming the back edge of the collar off as I spin this vise. Remember, most people forget they have a rotary vise and they can work it right around just like this. So with a rotary vise, see how we took all that hair off the back? There's a little red one there. Get rid of that guy yet. We got a beautiful collar and we got everything going for us that way. Now we're just going to take our tip of our scissors and come in the opposite way, right next to the foam, and we're going to trim this out. And we'll start to clean this up a little bit better as we get going. So there we go. Boom, we see a little bit of this stuff, a little bit of cleaning up. And that's pretty much it. I mean, there you go. You got the whole fly right there. Beautiful little piece. See a couple fibers, you can get rid of them. There's a red one in there. You can reach in and get rid of that. There's another red one there. And you pretty much have a nice looking little pencil popper. And you can see the head of this got a little bit red because that dye's wearing off. And that's the way all these flies look because, yeah, it's what I got, you know. It's what I got. Now you can come to the bottom. We can make sure that the craft fur is separated on either side of the hook. And I like to take that separation, I like to just pull that down. That'll kind of cover the bead. Beautiful little fly. Only thing we need to do now is add some eyes to it. So we could do that very simply by just putting a little bit of teeny little dab of our glue. Grab an eye. These happen to be dragon eyes. Pretty neat looking. They got like a slit in them. Push that right into the pocket. Glue that right into the pocket. You see that eye there looking at you? That's pretty much the deal. Put an eye on the other side. The teeniest little drop of this stuff goes a long way. And again, we'll grab another eye. And we'll lay that in place too. And you can be as fussy as you want with this. I'm not one to do too much screwing around. I just like to get them in. They like to stick to your fingers. There we go. Now you can see that guy. Beautiful. Everything's in the way it should be. If you want to do anything else, the only other thing that I might recommend is putting a layer or two of Sally Hansen hard as nails right over top of the whole thing, right over the eyes and the whole thing. And you can see I got that red smear. My popper head looks pink now because the dye from the deer hair kind of bleeds into it. But there you go. That's kind of the idea of this thing, and you can see pretty nicely what that thing looks like. And that is the little pencil popper. I guess we'll call it the JM Surface Popper. Minnow Surface. Let's call it the JM Minnow Surface Popper. JM on the fly, and I am out of here.